after 20 days of their bodies being found. As the terrible deaths of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy continue to be investigated, new developments are emerging. Officials have released further information on the couple's wills and a revised schedule. The late, great Gene Hackman amassed an enormous fortune because to his acting chops. However, his last desires have shaken his loved ones to their core. An emotional reaction erupted from his daughter upon learning the startling terms of her father's last will. Was it a scandal, an unexpected betrayal, or an inheritance? The unexpected turns that precipitated this family dispute will astound you as we delve into the hidden history of Hackman's legacy. What was his legacy? Why exactly was it so offensive? We'll have to see. To Hackman's estate worth $80 million. A startling conflict over an inheritance plays out. Hollywood icon Gene Hackman left behind an incredible history and an incredible estate worth $80 million. His career lasted decades. Now we may talk about Gene Hackman's approximately $80 million fortune in the headlines. Do you think his 3 kids are getting ready to fight following his exclusion from his will? But what was supposed to be an easy bequest has instead become a source of heated controversy inside the family, as well as widespread legal conjecture. The surprising rationale. His last will and testament did not include Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie as beneficiaries. Betsy Arakawa Hackman, his wife, was instead given full control of the fortune. Her untimely death, which occurred only days before his, has, however, turned the tables on him and his plans. On the 26th of February, authorities found the bodies of the 2-time Oscar winner and his wife in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home. The discovery of Hackman's last desires in legal papers swiftly turned this unfortunate tragedy into an estate fight. His will specifically designated Betsy as the only beneficiary, act as his personal representative and succeeding trustee of the Gene Hackman Living Trust with respect to his assets. Now that Betsy is dead, he has no idea what will happen to his enormous inheritance. The 3 children of Hackman were mentioned in the will, although they were not given any specific bequests. Hackman instead gave his wife Betsy full control of his assets when they were married in 1991. What happens if the only beneficiary passes away before the estate can be claimed is an unanswered question that remains after this decision. Is it possible that the 3 children will decide to pursue legal action, or will someone else end up with this fortune? Like his career in movies, the actor's private life was full of twists and turns. His first wife, Betsy, had 3 children with his first wife, Faye Maltese. Their marriage began in 1956 and ended in 1986 with a divorce. Hackman finally tied the knot with Betsy, a pianist and furniture merchant, 5 years down the road. Many people thought they had a really loving relationship because it lasted for more than 30 years. Both of the couple's wills, which they executed simultaneously in June 2005, named the other as the principal representative of their estates. They were married in 1991. According to reports, it was predictable that he would decide to leave her everything. The extraordinary complexity of the law that would follow her death before his own, however, was unanticipated. The Gibby Revocable Trust, which was set up in 1995, also named Betsy as the principal trustee, giving her influence over Hackman's assets, according to further inquiries into his estate. Betsy Arakawa Hackman was explicitly named as the beneficiary of the entire estate in a subsequent will that was signed in 2005. His intentions were made crystal obvious, but it didn't take into consideration the possibility that Betsy wouldn't make it through him. A seemingly endless conundrum now faces the legal community. Who gets Hackman's estate if nothing else? His 3 kids, right? After leaving his children out of his will, what happens to Gene Hackman's estate? Could a secret provision in the trust deed or an unnamed successor alter the outcome? Alternately, a surprising third party could materialize as a benefactor. The court battle is heating up, and everyone is on edge, trying to figure out who should receive Hackman's riches. However, a shocking surprise emerged at the exact moment when all appeared lost. A long-hidden secret regarding Hackman's private life is finally emerging. A voice is raised by the kids. When you leave someone out of the will, how do you think they really feel? Will they stand up and defend their father's name? Is the shocking truth about to be revealed even more shocking? Come and see the shocking reality with us. A troubled family is rocked to their core by Gene Hackman's shocking will. A Hollywood icon, Gene Hackman was much more than that. His legendary turns in The French Connection, Unforgiven, and The Royal Tenenbaums solidified his position as a cinematic force. Aspiring performers looked up to him, critics praised his work, and fans adored his talent. Despite his notoriety, Hackman was an extremely private guy. He protected his family from the prying eyes of the public by keeping his private life out of the limelight. That secrecy, however, was destroyed following the tragic deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. They could no longer keep their 3 children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie, in the background. They stood up, grieving but resolute, to pay tribute to the parents who had molded their lives. Choosing a life of serene seclusion, the youngest Hackman, Leslie Ann, had always shied away from the limelight. But hiding in the shadows wasn't an option this time. A tragic tale unfolded on her face when she was photographed in Los Angeles. She carried the burden of loss on her shoulders, and it showed in her eyes. For a long time, she avoided the spotlight, but suddenly she finds herself thrust into it due to external forces. She spilled the beans that they were making plans to visit their parents in New Mexico, a location where joy, hospitality, and love were once abundant. Now only memories remain. They were overwhelmed by the thought of going through all of their possessions. The house was filled with remnants of their lives, making it even more difficult to comprehend that they were no longer there. Elizabeth Hackman, who was born in 1962, similarly avoided the limelight of Hollywood. However, she discovered her voice at this time of sadness. She represented the family in her remarks, which she shared with Leslie and her niece Annie, conveying the intensity of their suffering. Gene Hackman was an iconic personality, a household name, and an Oscar-winning actor in the eyes of the world. But they just thought of him as Dad. He was the one who reassured them, shielded them from harm, and tucked them in at night. No longer did Gene's firstborn son, Christopher Hackman, follow in his father's footsteps. He was uninterested in being famous, rejecting the Hollywood lifestyle. He had a close relationship with his father, even though he was rarely seen in public. Their continued embrace as adults is evidence of their love. As Gene once mentioned, their romance was genuine. It was solid, powerful, and impossible to shatter. The Hackman children issued a moving message when word of their parents' deaths spread. They were proud to show the world that their famously glamorous father was also a caring spouse, grandpa, and father figure. Betsy Arakawa was also significant, but she was less well known. She was the steadying influence that kept Hackman cheerful and healthy in his twilight years. She had been by his side for more than 30 years. The affection shared between Leslie's father and stepmother was acknowledged, highlighting the fact that Betsy had always cared about him first. After Hackman left the performing profession, Betsy urged him to find serenity. Along with being his partner, she had been his best friend and biggest cheerleader. Theirs was a deeply committed love story, which made their abrupt separation that much more heartbreaking. Even though their loss was immense, a new storm was on the way, one that would put their family relationships to the test. In the midst of their grief, a terrible reality emerged. After deciphering Gene Hackman's will, they were shocked by what they found. They had hoped for years that their father would leave them his affection through the distribution of his fortune. However, the truth was very different. None of them had anticipated the decisions stated in the will, decisions that caused annoyance, shock, and wrath. The long-awaited moment has finally arrived, and with it, the stress and questions. The will is read aloud by the attorney. What disturbing information can be found in Gene Hackman's last will and testament? Was there nothing left for his children? Alternately, may something surprising be about to happen? We invite you to remain with us until the truth is unveiled. The attorney's confession, the last testament. That put a stop to it all. In his professional and personal life, Gene Hackman has always planned ahead. Even his multi-million-dollar mansion was not spared. He had made preparations for the eventuality of his wife, Betsy Arakawa Hackman's death, by outlining a clear succession plan. At first, Michael G. Sutton, who was his attorney before, was designated as the alternative personal representative. But once Sutton passed away in 2019, another lawyer, Julia L. Peters, took over. Court documents were officially filed on March 6, a few days following Hackman's death, to document this change in status. However, disturbing information on the couple's last days surfaced while legal issues were being resolved. Their causes of death were revealed at a news conference on March 7 by Dr. Heather Jarrell, the lead medical investigator in New Mexico. At the age of 95, John Hackman passed away from heart illness, with Alzheimer's disease contributing significantly to his deterioration. Also, Betsy developed hantavirus pulmonary syndrome and regrettably passed suddenly a few days ago. Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome was the cause of death for 65-year-old Miss Betsy Hackman. The manner of passing away is expected.